Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. The Indian Police Academy opened in 1969 and over the years has evolved from a facility offering basic training techniques into one that offers specialized and advanced training to a broad range of law enforcement personnel.
The wind cut across the pavilion at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Artesia, New Mexico, home also to the Indian Police Academy.
Our mission is to train all of those who protect our homeland, and that goes, there's 88 partnering organizations currently with FLETC that are partnership with FLETC in what we do. So those 88 agencies and that go through a range of training with us from basic all the way to agency advanced and advanced firearms, advanced drivers, forensics, and that kind of stuff as well. So here at Artesia, we have the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Tribal Police. Then we have the Border Patrol training that we do here, all the Border Patrol training. Then TSA actually does the Air Marshals and the FFDOs, Federal Flight Deck Officers as well. And then we do in-service training for BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service, and such.
Because of the unique jurisdictional responsibilities across Indian country, tribal police officers receive their training through the Indian Police Academy.
I have the unique responsibility of providing basic, advanced, specialty, and outreach training to Indian country law enforcement, corrections, as well as other specialty law enforcement units throughout the United States. That unique responsibility is entrusted to the Academy to provide those training opportunities for our tribal law enforcement programs, our BIA law enforcement programs, and as well as our correctional programs, both BIA and tribal across the United States. The United States Indian Police Academy actually was brought together in 1969 through a consolidation of making sure that our tribal and BIA law enforcement officers received consistent quality training. Prior to that, training was almost non-existent unless a tribe had the ability to get into a state training program or a local training program that taught law enforcement. It was, almost unheard of. Today, since 1969 to the present, the Indian Police Academy has been conducting our basic police programs, corrections, telecommunications programs, as well as other specialty trainings, firearms instructor, defensive tactics, driver's instructors, to enhance the professional skills of law enforcement personnel in Indian country. In no other academy setting will a student be exposed to federal criminal jurisdiction and laws and what to enforce, tribal jurisdiction and the laws to enforce, and at some points throughout their careers they will interact with state and local law enforcement agencies so that they have the opportunity also to look at cross-deputization if that is something that their tribal department wants to seek, that they would already have that ability to know, how to apply different jurisdiction laws in different jurisdictions.
The mission of the tribal and BIA officers differs from that of their counterparts in the Border Patrol, the TSA, and other agencies, but they receive elements of the same training.
They're going through classes in ethics and conduct and authority, and they're learning federal criminal jurisdiction and federal court procedures and how to testify, how to handcuff, how to use a baton, how to fire a weapon, and for that matter, how to drive a car. I mean, you will see those similarities in each of the programs, but where the programs then begin to differ is when you begin to see how those are applied. The program that I have oversight for here with the BIA and the tribes, I mean, we are conducting what I would be traditional law enforcement enforcement. That enforcement is not a responsibility of our friends at TSA, and in some points, Border Patrol has some elements of a traditional law enforcement authority, but theirs is more very specialized with regards to protection of the borders, those types of things.
Typically, it's a 16-week stay in Artesia to complete the program, and each class has 24 students.
Generally, in the first 2 weeks, a lot of it is classroom and administration. Starting in about week 3, they start getting out of the classroom, so they could be spending 2 hours, 4 hours on the firing range, 2 hours on the driving range, 2 hours in the physical techniques building, doing everything from officer response training to handcuffing to patrol skills types of exercises, chemical agent training, those types of things. So their days are, their full 16 weeks is filled with activities, both classroom and hands-on. These exercises are designed to begin to prepare the officer to make the appropriate decisions like they would back at their duty station. We're beginning now to see a younger generation of officer coming through. When I went through basic, cell phones were non-existent. Laptop computers were non-existent. Today it is a necessity. I mean, you can hardly run into any young person who does not have at least a cell phone, a laptop computer, an iPod, or some type of emerging technology. And those technologies are being incorporated into the training program.
FLETC's been blessed to have a long relationship with BIA and tribal law enforcement as a whole. We've been working with each other since 1984. As you've been able to see today, I mean, we take pride in our relationship with the Bureau and with the tribes as a whole. We understand the sovereignty issues the tribes faces and their day-to-day challenges. I think the main thing, if we can get a point across, is that relationship's great. It has been great for years, and we foresee it staying great for many years to come.
Did you know federal judges and federal magistrates play an important role for most Indian reservations? On most of the Indian reservations in the United States, criminal misdemeanors go to tribal court where they are prosecuted by tribal attorneys. But major crimes, such as murder, are prosecuted by United States attorneys, and cases are heard by the federal bench. In 1953, under the termination policies, Congress passed Public Law 280, which allowed states to prosecute Indian people on reservations in some states, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, California, Nebraska, and Oregon. But even in these states, tribes retain the right to have tribal courts and can prosecute for some matters under a concept called concurrent jurisdiction.
Many leaders of Native nations across the United States have taken a cue from their state and federal counterparts by delivering their versions of the State of the Union address. For some nations, it may be called the State of the Tribe. For others, such as the Bois Forte Reservation in northern Minnesota, it is the State of the Band.
Bonjour, welcome to the 2011 State of the Band address. It's great to see so many people here, so many friends and family and people we haven't seen for a number of years. And the theme for this year is Anishinaabe people, we come together. And the people of Bois Forte have always come together.
On this cold northern Minnesota day, a warm welcome was extended by the Bois Forte Tribal Council to community members to feast and hear the State of the Band address.
The State of the Band is similar to the governor's State of the State or the president's State of the Union address. This is the Bois Forte State of the Band. And what we do here is it gives us an opportunity to share with the citizens of Bois Forte the progress we've made through the year, any activities that we've done for the past year, and also the things that we have planned for the future. It's important because people need to keep abreast of what's happening in their tribal government, and they also need to give input. I mean, we can't lead or have the direction and know where we're going unless we reach out to the citizens of Bois Forte. This gives us an opportunity to meet with a number of people.
Keeping community members informed is important, but so is maintaining relationships with state legislators.
As chairman of the Indian Affairs Council, we have a number of initiatives that we're going to do to try to educate the legislature in Minnesota. So we'll be doing that, bringing in some foundations to hopefully assist with that, bringing some, maybe a professor or two from the University of Minnesota to assist in that. We have to reach out to the legislature and keep them informed about us as a people. And, you know, we just had Senator Franken here not too long ago who, you know, came up and toured the new building. And you know, so we need to keep them informed, and that's what we're going to do. Education about our issues is really important. So they're aware and can help us in a situation. Sovereignty means a lot. It's one of the issues that I always have at the forefront of any issue. The U.S. Constitution mentions 3 governments, and that's the United States of America, the individual states, and Indian tribes. Tribes are governments, just like the state and federal government, with sovereign powers. And one of the things we have to remember is that the tribes have always had that. Before the United States of America, before the state of Minnesota, tribes were governments. They still are. And we have to remind people of that. And we do that here on a number of occasions. We've had sovereignty issues, and because if we don't use sovereignty, we'll lose it. It's like a muscle. If we don't exercise it, we're going to end up getting weak and eventually lose that.
Community members packed the foyer of the Government and Community Center and later filled the tables to hear Chairman Lisi's address.
Despite the poor economic situation, we have fully funded all tribal government programs and services again this year. We have deliberately built a mixed portfolio of businesses so that all our eggs were in one financial basket. That mixed portfolio helped us soften the effect of the downturn in the gaming industry. We know that there's new leadership not only in the U.S. Senate, in the legislature, but the state has also seen a great turnover. I think we have like 52 legislators that are new in the state of Minnesota. We also have threats to Indian gaming, which is always a concern. The state of Minnesota is facing a $6 billion deficit. We know that gaming has been offered by not only the governor himself, but also the legislature. So we expect to see a flurry of bills coming in, and we have to make sure that we're down there to protect our gaming operations and expansion.
In addition to the community and governmental goals for the coming year, Chairman Lisi announced the band's new radio station will begin broadcasting.
One of the other initiatives we have for this coming year is the opening of the KBFT radio station here in Nett Lake, non-commercial radio station. We're going to use that to do a lot more of the cultural and language for band membership to listen to, as well as some informational things. Hopefully we can use that as a tool to keep people abreast of information, but also language, culture, and more importantly, when we talk about culture, not only the language, but how we've interacted for a long time on issues like the 7 commandments of Indian people, and how we do treat each other with respect. We do have all them issues, be kind, be honest, all those, and hopefully we can start teaching some long lost traditions As you know, we've had the termination era, we've had the boarding school era, and a number of things where we've kind of lost that message along the way. We hope by opening the radio station, KBFT, we can kind of bring that education back to the band membership and really let them know what Native people are all about, and some of the teachings and oral traditions that we've kind of lost along the way. We want to bring those back.
We can't forget those who have served for our country here, for our homeland. I know some people say, well, how come Indian people honor veterans when the country took their land away and destroyed our language and all these other things? But we still have our land, we still have our language, we still have our ways, we still have our ceremonies that we do every year. So we still have all those ways, and people, we have the American Religious Freedom Act that protects our very customs and ways of life, and that's what this, I guess, is what this POW is about, even protecting those ways of being able to honor our own people, to preserve our ways by practicing our own religion and customs. And so this is what it's all about. I mean, we're just a small part of America, but we are an important part of America. We like to believe that and tell our children that they are important, what they do every day, what they do. They're important people.
Leo Brisbois is committed to the ideal of public service. Initially, he aspired to be a teacher, but he followed a different path, leading him to where he is today, Magistrate Judge for the District of Minnesota.
It is nothing short of an absolute honor and a privilege to have the chairwoman from the White Earth community make some remarks. I was surprised and humbled to receive a Pendleton blanket from the community. The honor guard for the ceremony was the White Earth Veterans Association, and which meant that the Eagle staffs came in and the drums, and it just I don't know how to put it into words other than it was a very emotional time for me to have sort of everything in my life up to this point come together at one time. My legal training, my legal profession, which is outside of my growing up with those influences from the White Earth community, but then to have the White Earth community be a part of the process. I mean, it just brought everything together, and it's something I'm going to remember forever.
I, Leo Brisbois.
Leo Brisbois, one of only 2 Native American magistrate judges in the United States, cites Ojibwe values, cultural teachings, and elders as important influences.
One of the things that I think comes from my Indian culture is in heritage is patience and respect for all things, and those are exactly the kind of things you need to be an effective judicial officer. Is patience and respect for the parties that come into your courtroom, because justice is not just about getting the decision right as much as possible, but it's about treating people right, and so that they know that they've been heard and respected. Again, the outcome is always determined by the law and the facts, but it's that patience and respect for all things that I think is going to guide me the most in dealing with the people that come into the court system. Everything about growing up and listening and learning and watching, and every time you go to a ceremony, or if you've been to a powwow, or you just had the opportunity to hear elders speak, you always come away with something, and that always becomes a part of you. And it's once someone or something they've done becomes part of your circle, it never leaves you. And So everything I am today, is the combination of all my experiences, both inside and outside the Indian communities.
Situated in the Gerald W. Heaney Federal Building in Duluth, Minnesota, the legacy of Judge Heaney is not lost on Brisbois.
Gerald Heaney is a Duluth native, lived in Duluth and was actually appointed by President Johnson to the 8th Circuit Federal Court of Appeals. And he had his chambers in this building downstairs on the 3rd floor. Worked from the 60s right up until 2006 as an active judge on deciding cases. Decided many critical equal rights cases on the 8th Circuit, and was always personally committed to equal rights and equality of justice. And so coming to work every day in the Gerald W. Heaney Federal Building just reminds me about, again, how important it is to be that fair, neutral, committed to equal opportunity, for everybody to have a full and fair hearing on their case based on the law and the facts. So it's an inspiration to come to work here every day. It's really a pleasure to work in here. It really gives you a sense of the not the power, but the respect and dignity that goes with the job.
As magistrate judge for the District of Minnesota, Brisbois has jurisdiction over federal matters in Minnesota, including those on reservation lands.
In Minnesota, 2 of the reservations are non-public law 280 reservations. That's Red Lake and Bois Forte. And so the federal criminal jurisdiction extends to those areas. And so those cases would come to federal court. Any other claim that arises in the reservation that is subject, to a federal statute or gives rise to a federal civil claim, just like anywhere else in the state of Minnesota, could also come to federal court. But the unique tie is the fact of that exclusive federal jurisdiction for criminal matters on Red Lake and Bois Forte, and both of which are within my area of responsibility, the 5th and 6th divisions of Minnesota, which is essentially the entire northern half of the state. And treaty litigation goes to federal court. So it's a part and parcel of the work of the federal courts even to this day, and those decisions are over 200 years old.
Many reservations across Indian country do have their own tribal courts, but Brisbois' interaction with the ones in Minnesota has yet to be determined.
Some of the tribal court decisions get reviewed in the federal courts, so it's possible that there may be some cases that come for parties seeking review of a tribal court decision. Most of the tribal court decisions are handled within tribal appellate process, but there are ways once the exhaustion of the case and remedies within the tribal court system, they still might find their way to the federal courts.
Judge Brisbois is committed to the ideal of public service, and education is key.
We all have an obligation to do something, no matter whatever we can do at any moment in our lives, to give back to the community. And if it's through your job, that's great. If it's volunteer time outside of your job, that's great. But we all should do something at all times to give back to our communities. My father was a public school teacher. My grandmother and her sisters taught in the one-room school on White Earth Reservation. My grandfather served in World War II. It's everything about where I've come from as a family is about serving the community at some point, in some way. Education in any form, not just legal form, is vital to the success of the individual, but ultimately to the continued success and well-being of the community.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, you can find us on the web at nativereport.org. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is a member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation, and Tad Johnson is a member of the Bois Forte Band of Chippewa and is chair for the American Indian Studies Department on the campus of the University of Minnesota Duluth.